I Disappear was a special one in Metallica discography. Rarely does Metallica release stuff that does not go to their studio albums, which are kind of like the pillars of their timeline. And so the tracks like this one just kind of fall between the cracks, trapped between the major releases, and thus often remain neglected. Alright, let's just count them all the non-studio original Metallica songs. And actually, we've got none until the year 1999, and then we got Man It's Human and No Leaf Clover. Which went on to the S&M, which is kind of an album, it is live. Then the most recent one is Lords of Summer. Which eventually landed as a bonus of Hardwired. So we might not count it actually. Then Beyond Magnetic for songs, which is an EP of Magnetic Leftovers. Suck on my barrel, suck on my barrel, suck, suck. And then there's I Disappear. Which was just a single, specifically a movie soundtrack for Mission Impossible 2, that did not go anywhere besides that one standalone release. And that makes it kind of one-of-a-kind Metallica song. It was the last Metallica song recorded featuring Jason Newsted. He really needed to produce new music, which Metallica procrastinated with at that point. And that was one of the reasons of Jason's crisis, actually. After Reload, which was 1997, they did a couple songs on S&M, and I Disappear came along, but apparently that was not enough and too late to fix the broken. And so shortly after I Disappear, Jason left the band. Or should I say, disappeared? Some of you know that I am a big Metallica fan, and also some of you know that I'm a bassist. I've played a lot of Metallica songs. But recently I had this realization that I never played I Disappear. The track so unexpectedly has opened all its shades and flavors way more than I believed it had. I isolated I Disappear bass and first of all was stunned by the attack Jason played with there. The whole song, except a couple bits, the soft choruses, is basically fortissimo all the time. Plus, he sprinkled a few extra licks and variations as the song progressed, like in the second soft chorus where he goes up an octave in the second half. And so he does also in the bridge or Kirk solo or whatever that is. We'll return to it later. But first, no, it's not a word from our sponsor, as YouTubers usually continue the phrase. Although I do really appreciate everyone who supports the channel. So where we left? But first, we mentioned soft choruses. A heavy verse and soft chorus is a rare occasion in music nowadays. Normally it's the other way around, a rather calm verse, an explosive chorus or hook. But the very year the song to blame this trend for, that is Spin Like... Smell Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana came out, Metallica did the opposite on The Unforgiven from the Black Album. According to Lars Ulrich, that was a deliberate creative choice. They just felt like trying that kind of backwards song structure.
So I wanted to do a ballad that was different from all the other ballads that we've done, which is usually like, you know, kind of subdued verses and a real heavy chorus. So we kind of flipped that around and did like a heavy verse and a kind of mellow chorus, and that turned into The Unforgiven.
And well, that worked, I suppose. Then the second Unforgiven had the normal structure, or rather double backwards, and the third Unforgiven returned to the original form with soft chorus. And in between those, Metallica did a couple more songs with soft choruses, including The Unnamed Feeling from Saint Anger and the song in question, I Disappear. And besides soft chorus, I Disappear also featured another signature Metallica blueprint that rose to prominence on the Black Album. Can you guess what it is? It's the 3+1 riff structure. So this 3+1 or 3 and the tail riff structure means that a riff consists of 4 beats. One just goes 3 times and then wraps by another one, which kind of makes the phrase complete. Kind of call and answer, but the call repeats and then repeats again, and then finally a resolution. And the song that is most known for it, or is to blame for it, is Enter Sandman. And we should thank the drummer, Lars Ulrich, who made it like that, because the original Enter Sandman riff by Kirk was more boring. It's like 1 and 1. And saying that the 3 and the tail structure for the Sandman riff served the song well would be a massive understatement. This trick Metallica have used in the Black Album much more frequently than the soft chorus. Basically, every other riff on Load and Reload is like that. They were probably like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And then we had it on No Leaf Clover, and finally, shortly after that, on I Disappear. And the latter has even more Sandman in itself, namely the way the intro kind of builds up and then explodes. And then this kind of syncopation on the first beat of the riff, which kind of kick in prematurely by 1/8, which I call the false start. And which makes the riff more, counterintuitive, more unexpected to your brain, which kind of came before it. But extends onto the previous bar, in between the beats, kind of, and pulls back arrow. But despite so many similarities with the Black Album, I Disappear basically continues what Metallica did on Load and Reload, especially production-wise. Here we got no thick triple track like left, right, and a thickener that James used to lay down up the Black Album and thus since Magnetic again. Instead, I Disappear has the Load-Reload setup. Gist in the left, Kirk in the right, both playing rather loosely with individual variation, extra noises, which makes it more live. However, I Disappear contains something that kind of foreshadows Saint Anger, while Load and Reload did not yet have the snare. And funny enough, I did not find any complaints about it when the song was released. Yeah, the snare in I Disappear was in rather moderate form, not as ear-piercing as on Saint Anger. But anyway, I Disappear had the snare first. And with all said above, this is the the middle link from Load to Saint Anger production-wise. And to some extent, even songwriting-wise as well. If you think about it, I Disappear would not fit neither Loads nor Saint Anger. It's a standalone example of a sound Metallica tried only once and did not get to explore further after Jason left. Well, they kind of did explore it a bit in the early stages of Saint Anger before James's rehab, the Presidio stuff. And if you saw some kind of monster documentary, at that point that felt like stuck and stock, and after James' return, they seemed to not give a damn about it anymore and just ended up with what we have as Saint Anger now. Unlike Saint Anger, I Disappear does not feel like a garage demo. There are nuances, intricacies, craftsmanship in there, and an actually good and relevant sound. It's not as catchy in the classic Metallica sense. The main riff is rather boring, but that was kind of the first step into those waters. If Metallica had enough creative energy, unity, and sanity, they would have made a new massive hit with that sound within just a couple more such attempts. That would be the most natural way Metallica could age, adapt, and fit in. We could call it the alternative Metallica, since Saint Anger is already alternative, so it's alternatively to that. Metallica basically has only 2 guitar tones, this on and this off. But what we hear in I Disappear, it's It's actually something in the middle. It's more like low gain crunch or something, and not occasionally like they do in a lot of songs, like Intro to Saint Anger. But the entire song is built on that tone. Except the clean parts and where Kirk does his stuff. Speaking of which, who remembers that video, riff or solo? The bridge for I Disappear falls somewhere in the middle of that spectrum. It has qualities of both a riff and a lead part. Just a cool bluesy Jimi Hendrix-ish lick repeated a couple times. And I wouldn't mind if Metallica did that kind of solos more. Well, I'd prefer to anything Kirk did after Magnetic. And I must say, this kind of laid-back overdrive is so refreshing, because now the standard guitar tone is to be as heavy as possible at all costs, by laying quintuple, sextuple tracks, adding gain as much and downtune as low as possible. And as you see, it's not all about depth. Just two guitars, left and right, not so tight actually, semi-distortion and E-flat tuning, basically the standard. How can you get heavy with that? But apparently, Metallica could, and Jason Newsted played not the last part on that. By the way, the working version of I Disappear, the one that was leaked on Napster, and this song is in general associated with Napster. Maybe that also has something about it's kind of been neglected. By the way, this not quite demo but almost done version was quite different still. The biggest difference being that the choruses are swapped. Now the first two are heavy and the last one is soft. That also works, but someone, maybe that was Lars or Bob, must have said, "Man, that sounds too normal."
It's a little stock.
And so they retailored swiftly the track almost on the run, because the leaked version seemed to have a lot of the recordings that would end up on the final mix. That's why I'm calling it a demo. And among other differences, it's like 10 seconds longer. There's extra vocal lines and a couple different lyrics. Greetings from Andriy at the stage of montage. So one of the ways I Disappear also surprised me, that I would not expect I would talk about it so much. At this point, I'm not as enthusiastic about the song as at the time of recording. I almost hate it, but it's still cool. It's cool, but again, it's not Master of Puppets. That's one of the songs that we could make video after video. And this one, I Disappear, we make it and we gotta move on. So let's just dump all cool-ish stuff I would want to share with you about it. Firstly, the music video. I must admit, that's one of the best Metallica music videos ever made, if not the best. Usually Metallica clips are, kind of hideous and not as thought out and well directed as this one. It has this quality of a movie, the influence of the Mission Impossible, It has dynamics. It has part for every Metallica member as a kind of character, action hero. At times it feels like they are recycling the bits, especially the part with Kirk. You see that sometimes the same part repeats over and over again just to extend the duration, but that's all right. The part is badass anyway. Everyone is badass there. And another coolish aspect about I Disappear is the lyrics. They, at the first glance, may seem kind of made up. Well, every lyric in history is made up, but this one feels more like improvised on the spot, not as well-crafted piece of poetry as James usually makes. And you would be almost right, because it was written literally at the bar when James hung out with Bob Rock, when they were discussing this song. They were thinking about the soundtrack, and James just wrote it. Hey, I guess it fits. Then, there's a song fact about I Disappear that Metallica used for the music video for their DVD. A slightly heavier distortion than on the single release on the soundtrack of I Disappear. Well, I checked. and I barely hear the difference. Maybe that's not the version, but where did it come from, this fact? Maybe that's true, but maybe that's just the different kind of compression, not the matter of distortion. Or maybe even that light, as for Metallica, distortion was still too much for the movie soundtrack. That's more of a mainstream stuff. And then when they got another opportunity to release it, they just rolled it up. I don't know. I don't hear much difference. Maybe you do. Write in comments. And also write in comments anything cool, interesting, curious about the song that I missed. I'm not returning to it. And actually, I'm cutting like a third of this video. Firstly, because I'm sick of editing. But secondly, most of it is about Saint Anger. Because there's a big relation between this song and that album that's a similar era, basically. Would Saint Anger have happened if Jason stayed? But I decided to keep it for another video about, well, Saint Anger. Plus, I've already recorded the bass cover for Saint Anger, and it got me some new ideas, so yeah. And let's hope this video actually comes. And you might motivate me if you donate and everything, become the member of the channel, yeah. I return the memberships to this channel because I'm in the game again. If you can support me or buy me coffee, Patreon, that would also be really helpful. Thank you for watching and see you next time, friends.